Hi guys and welcome back. In this video we're going to look at some if statements with the in keyword and also a few more examples so you get a bit more experience. Here we've got our movies watched, which is a set of strings with the movie titles, and then we're asking the user for a movie they've watched recently. We can then say user movie in movies watched, and we can put that in an if statement. So again, when Python reaches line 4, it's going to evaluate this boolean and it's going to say, is the thing the user entered one of the elements of this collection, this set? And if it's true, then it's going to evaluate this code here. And remember, we need indentation in front of this so that Python can tell what code is inside the if statement. So we're going to print something like, I've watched user movie 2. Otherwise, we can print, I haven't watched that yet. If we run this, then you can enter something like Green Book, and it'll tell you that I've watched Green Book 2. Of course, if you enter something else, then it'll tell you that I haven't watched that yet. So this is how you can use the in keyword in an if statement. And it just works in exactly the same way as it did in the last video when we were printing it out, but now you can use it there in order to make decisions and potentially do different things in your program. Let's work on a slightly different example. We're going to create now a magic number app. So in this application, we're going to decide on a magic number, a hidden number from the user. We're going to ask the user to enter a number, and then we are going to tell the user whether they got the number right or not. But before we do that, we're going to ask the user whether they want to play the game or not. So we'll start by creating our magic number. We'll say number equal 7. Then we're going to ask the user whether they want to play. So we'll say user input equal input, enter Y if you would like to play. Now we're going to say if user input equal Y, then we will ask them for a number. So we can do something like user number, int of input, guess our number, let's say. So we will ask them to guess our number, we will get the input that they type, and then we will turn that into an integer. And finally, we can use another if statement here and say user number equal number. Then we will print that you guessed correctly. Otherwise, we will print, sorry, it's wrong. So we're not using the in keyword here at all, but there are a few things that I wanted to tell you about before we do that. The first one is that all of these lines are inside this if statement. So they will only ever potentially run if this is true. So if the user enters lowercase y, then we will start running this line. Number 5, then we will move on to 6, and so on. Number 6 here is another if statement. So if this is true, then we will run this line. And now you can see that this line has two sets of indentation because it is both inside this if statement and this one. So therefore we have 8 spaces in total in front of it so that Python can tell that this one belongs inside this if statement. Then we've got an else paired with this if statement in line 6. Which means that if the user number was not exactly correct, given our magic number, we're going to print, sorry, it's wrong. And again, notice the indentation in this line. We can run this code, and then we'll ask the user to enter Y if they would like to play. So we are going to enter Y, and then we can guess the number, let's say 7, and you can see that we guessed it correctly. Now let's start using the in keyword. Because the first thing that you may see users do is that they may think that because this is a computer or something, they have to enter uppercase Y. It is quite common in computing to ask the user for uppercase letters, so they might do that. And here you can see that we don't support this uppercase variant. So there are two things you can do. The first one that we've already looked at is you can turn this into lowercase, and that is actually the better choice of the two. So I would do this. I would turn the user's input into lowercase, and then I would compare the lowercase user input with the lowercase character that I want to check. But in some situations, you may want different options potentially, or you may not want to do that exactly. So there is something you can do in this if statement, which is to replace the equal for in, and then you can have here a tuple of the two letters that you're willing to accept as your input. So what we do here is we create a tuple with two strings, lowercase y and uppercase y, and then we're checking whether the user's input is one of those two. And if it is, then we will proceed. So this is something you could do if you were interested. I'm just showing you that there, but I would actually prefer to turn the user's input into lowercase. The second place where we could use the in keyword is if we wanted to give the user a hint regarding how close or how far they were from our magic number. So let's say that we want to tell the user that they are off by 1 if they enter 6 or 8. Here in the if statement, after user number equal number, we're going to say elif number minus user number in 1 and minus 1. We're going to print you were off by 1. So what this is doing is, once again, it's defining a tuple of two numbers that we're willing to accept, 1 and minus 1. Then we're going to subtract from our number, which is 7, the user number. Let's say 6 as an example. 7 minus 6 is going to give us 1, and then it's going to check whether 1 is in this tuple, which has 1 and minus 1. If it is, then we're going to print that you were off by 1. If they enter 8, then we will do 7 minus 8, which is minus 1, and minus 1 will also be in this tuple, so we will also print you were off by 1. This is something you could do, and potentially this can be really handy if you want a longer set of values. But for this specific situation, there's also a better way of doing it without the in keyword, which is by using absolute values. So you can do ABS of number minus user number. And what ABS does is it gives you the absolute value of this argument. So if you pass it the value 1, ABS of 1 will give you 1. But if you pass it minus 1, ABS of minus 1 will give you 1. It will turn it back into positive. So now number minus user number will always give you how far away the user was from our magic number in positive terms. So you can go back to saying equal 1. Because this number here will always be 1, 2, 3, and so on. So if they were off by 1, then we can just print that. And I think this is a slightly better approach than using the in keyword. But again, the in keyword can be useful in a wide number of scenarios where this may not be enough. If we run this again, you'll see that we can type Y to play. Then we can guess the number, let's say 8, and then it says that you were off by 1. Feel free to play around with this code and change it and do more things with it if you'd like. This is a great exercise and will be good practice for you if you're starting to learn to code. Thanks for joining me in this video. I hope it's been useful, and I'll see you in the next one.